In this video, I will show you how I automated lead qualification using Claude, a process that can be very repetitive and time-consuming in every sales workflow. I will show you how I take a lead from my CRM, enrich it with data that I get from their website and their LinkedIn profile, and then assess them against an ICP rubric to conclude whether they're qualified or not. All this without leaving Claude. If this sounds interesting to you, let's dive right in. Now, before I jump into the actual implementation, I want to take a few seconds here to give you an overview of how I architected this solution so you can understand how the pieces fit together. Now, this solution comprises of two key elements. These two key elements are Claude skills. If you're not familiar with what a Claude skill is, think about it as a file, as a text file, that you would give to an assistant in order to teach them how to perform a task. So it would be a file with step-by-step instructions on the steps they need to take in order to complete a particular process. This is all a skill is, right? And in this case, the assistant is Claude. Now here we have two skills, a lead enrichment skill and a lead qualification skill. And you might be asking right now, well, this is about automating lead qualification. Why do we need to have a lead enrichment skill? And my answer to that is the way I think about a lead is a record in my CRM that has some basic information about a person. So their name, their email address, their phone number, and their website. And for me to be able to qualify a person, to qualify a company and assess whether I can work with them or not, I need to have a lot more information about what they do, what are their products, what does the company do, what's the size of the company and all that. So I need to have a way to enrich the lead first. I need to have a way to get a lot of information about them before I can qualify them. Now, if this is not the case with you and you already, like your CRM already has a lot of information about the lead, then you can skip through this video and go to the section about lead qualification, right? Because you already have the mechanisms on how to get all the information you need about the person. But if that's not the case with you and a lead is just the basic contact information that you need to enrich first, then this is what this first skill is for. And I specifically split it up into two skills, even though I could put lead enrichment in the lead qualification skill. I specifically split it up into two skills that you can call on demand based on how you structure your workflow. Now, there's also a few external elements that connect to these skills in order to make them work. For example, in the lead enrichment skill, we have a connection to LinkedIn and a connection to the person's website in order to be able to extract information from there and bring it into the context of Claude to be able to accomplish this lead enrichment. And then in lead qualification, we connect to a file that contains information about our ICP. So I think of it as a rubric with criteria about the ideal company profile, the ideal customer that I want to be working with. And this is what enables me to basically assess whether this lead matches this criteria and then decide whether they're qualified or disqualified. So that's an overview of the solution's architecture. Let's dive right into the actual implementation. Now, the first thing I did here is I opened up Claude on my computer. I went to code, so this will be a Claude code project. I created a new folder called lead qualification and linked it to this session. So any files, any scripts that Claude writes as part of this skill creation, then they will be stored in that folder so I can easily access them in future sessions. Now here's the prompt that I gave it in order to create this lead enrichment skill. I told it that I want to create a skill that will help me collect and enrich all the information I have about a lead. The skill should do the following. So these are the step-by-step instructions that it needs to execute inside this skill. Number one, ask me to provide an ID of the lead in my CRM. In my case, I'm using Salesforce, but you could actually link this to any CRM that has an API integration. Number two, make an API call to Salesforce to get the lead record fields. So basically, any data that we have on the lead record in the CRM will be retrieved via this API call. Number 3, find their website in their record fields and make an HTTP call to extract the HTML of the website's homepage, product pages, about us page, and jobs careers page. So this is where we're reaching out and getting all the information from their website in order to start getting a better picture of their company. This is very important information that will allow us to then qualify this lead. Then number 4, use the lead's name and their company name domain to search on the web and find their LinkedIn profile. So here is where I want to now get information about the person that I'm talking to. And the best place to find that information will usually be their LinkedIn profile. So I'm asking Claude to perform a web search in order to find their LinkedIn profile, because it's likely not going to be included in my lead information. And then number 5, use the Apify LinkedIn scraper actor, and I'm giving it a link here, to extract all the information from their LinkedIn profile. Now, if you're not familiar with Apify, Apify is basically a web scraper marketplace that has a lot of different scrapers, and quite a few scrapers are actually LinkedIn ones. Here I found a LinkedIn scraper that extracts data from a LinkedIn profile. So what I'm telling Claude here is that I wanted to use this specific scraper. They're called actors. So I just copied this link from the landing page and I pasted it there so it knows that it needs to use that. Now later down the line, we're actually going to need to provide it with some authentication credentials so it can actually use the scraper. But for now, I'm just letting it know that this is what I wanted to use in order to extract the data from the LinkedIn profile. So that's the prompt that I put together for this lead enrichment skill. It started building it, and then soon it had some questions that I had to provide it answers to. So the first one was, how should the skill authenticate to Salesforce to fetch the lead record? Salesforce, to give you some context, has different authentication methods. But the simplest one is the OAuth client credentials. So this is where I'm generating some credentials in Salesforce, and then I'm giving it to Claude so it can authenticate to Salesforce through those credentials. So this is what I chose for this question. Then it asked me which LinkedIn extraction depth should the skill use by default. So should it try and extract all the information from the profile and also do an email search, which might be useful if you don't have your lead's email. If you're doing some kind of like cold outreach, maybe this is useful for you. But in my case, I assume that I already have the person's email address. So I only want to extract information from their LinkedIn profile. So I chose that option. Then it asked me, what should the skill produce as its final deliverable? And it presented a few options here to store the information that it extracts in files. And I don't see this as a very valuable step because I'm actually thinking of lead enrichment as a pre-step to lead qualification, right? Right after I run this lead enrichment skill, I'm planning to run the lead qualification skill in the same Claude session. So actually what I wanted to do is give me all the information, all the enrichment data right inside the Claude session so I can then tell the lead qualification skill to use that information to qualify the lead, right? So I don't need to store it in a file. Now, of course, you can customize your workflow in any way you like. You might, for example, decide that you want to do the lead qualification at a later stage. So in that case, it would make sense to store that enriched data somewhere so you can access it at a later stage. And then finally, it asked me how should the skill grab the website pages, and I just chose the recommended option that it had here, which is using built-in fetch and link discovery. The way I think about it is if I don't have a strong opinion on what it should use, I would just go with the recommended option, and then later down the line, if I see that it doesn't work, then I will go and adjust things. So with the answers to those questions, it proceeded to create the skill. And then the next thing I had to do is provided access to my Salesforce OAuth credentials, so it can actually connect to Salesforce and retrieve the lead information. So for this, I went to Salesforce and I created what is called a connected app. So this is the step you need to take in order to generate these consumer key and consumer secret credentials that you can then pass to Claude in order to be able to connect to Salesforce via API. Now, this will look a little different based on which kind of CRM you want to connect the skill to. But you can just ask Claude and it will figure out what is the right way to build that connection, and it will also tell you what you need to provide it and where to find it. So that's creating the Salesforce connection. And then I gave it a Salesforce lead ID, right? So I copied this from the URL of my Salesforce lead record, and I confirmed that it was able to pull the information into the session. So here is the confirmation that the skill is able to connect to Salesforce, and here is a lead briefing that it generated for Alex Hormozy, which is a test record that I added to my CRM. Now, once the Salesforce connection was established, then the next thing I had to do was connect it to Apify. So I went to my Apify account, I went to settings, I went to API and integrations, I created a new token, I named it something descriptive like Claude Lead Qualification, so I know what the token is for. And then I pasted it into the .env file of the project. So I opened this folder in VS Code. And then under .env, this is where API keys are supposed to be stored. I created a new element called Apify API key, and then I just pasted the API key in there. You don't need to open these files. You can just give the API key to Claude and ask it to store it for you. But this is how I chose to do it. Anyway, so I told it that I pasted the API key in the environment file, and then it was able to run a test and confirm that the connection to Apify was established. Now, with these connections in place, it went ahead and tested the skill again to ensure that all the steps can be executed successfully. So this is a lead briefing that it generated for Alex Hormozy. This is the data that it extracted from the CRM, so his name and the company. Then this is the data that it extracted from his website, his company's website, acquisition.com. Then this is the data that it extracted from his LinkedIn profile using the Apify actor. And then finally, confirmation that everything worked as expected. So with the lead enrichment skill in place, we can now move on to the lead qualification skill, which is actually much simpler to set up because now we have the data, right? The data can now be pulled into the Claude session using the lead enrichment skill. We just need to create a skill that will compare that data to our ICP. Now, of course, if you don't have an ICP document, if you don't have the ICP, your ICP criteria defined, then that will definitely be a prerequisite. That's something that you need to do in order to be able to qualify your prospects. But I would assume that you already have that if you have an established sales process. So here is the prompt that I wrote. Again, I'm within the same folder. To create this skill. So I said, now that I have the lead enrichment skill in place that will help me get the information I need for my lead, I want you to build a lead qualification skill that will use the below ICP criteria to qualify the lead and generate a report that contains a list of qualification criteria and an assessment of how well the lead meets each one, as well as a high-level summary of whether they're qualified or not. And as you can see, I also included a markdown file that includes all the ICP criteria, all the information about the ideal company that I want to be working with, which Claude will be comparing my lead against. Now, it doesn't, by the way, it doesn't have to be a markdown file. It can be any file, like a document, or even maybe like a link to a Google Doc if your Claude has a connection to that. So yes, that's the prompt. It then went ahead and asked me some questions. So how should the qualification skill get the leads data? And this is where we basically say that prior to this, we're running a lead enrichment. So I wanted to consume the data that comes from that lead enrichment skill. And that's the reason earlier I said that I want the data to appear in the Claude session. So right after, if I trigger this lead qualification skill, it already has the context, right? So that's my choice there. Number 2, where should the lead qualification report go? I said inline and offer to save it. So again, I want it to be in the appear in the Claude session, and then I can decide whether I want to save it somewhere or whether I want to sync the data of the report to my CRM. I want to have flexibility on that option. So that was the process of creating the lead qualification skill, much simpler than the lead enrichment skill. And I now had everything I needed to start testing the entire workflow. So I went to Salesforce, I found the lead records here. I copied the URL, which includes the lead ID. I went to Claude, I opened up a new Claude code session, again referencing that lead qualification folder there. And then I instructed it to run the lead enrichment skill. The way that you do that is with / and then the name of the skill. And then I also pasted the URL that I copied from Salesforce, which includes the lead ID, so it knows which lead we're trying to enrich here. So here we can see it's running the skill. It's extracting the data from the person's website and LinkedIn profile. And then it put together a nice briefing here, which shows the data extracted from the CRM, the data extracted about the company, likely from their website, and then the data extracted from his LinkedIn profile through Apify, and then some gaps and confidence notes here. And then what's cool is that it asked me whether I wanted to trigger the lead qualification skill right after. So it already knows that I'm planning on triggering this lead qualification skill right after the lead enrichment skill. So I only had to just say yes there, and it automatically pulled the lead qualification skill and then run it, which generated this report that shows the criteria of my ICP, the result, so whether the person matches that criteria or not, and then finally the assessment, which is basically the reasoning whether they match it or not. Then I went ahead and ran another test here. Again, lead enrichment, new Salesforce lead record. It went ahead and browsed the web. It had some issues with LinkedIn. I think it couldn't find the correct LinkedIn profile. However, it says here that it didn't fabricate the information, so it flagged it instead, which is great because we don't want it to be generating a bunch of fake information about a person. So here's the lead briefing that it put together. Here we have the CRM data. Here we have the company information, likely extracted through their website. As you can see, some data is from LinkedIn. Then we have the person's data from LinkedIn, which actually is unconfirmed. So I think it wasn't able to find a good match for a LinkedIn profile for this person. Instead of fabricating the information, it just said that it's not sure, that it's unconfirmed. Then it presented the option for lead qualification. I said yes. And this is the final lead qualification report that shows us the criteria and then the result and assessment for this company, which is actually a good fit for our ICP. So even though it didn't have a lot of information about the person, it was able to extract enough information about the company, which is which includes some good indicators for the assessment here and for being able to actually qualify this lead. Then finally, I actually asked it to update Salesforce to mark this lead as qualified, because in Salesforce, I actually have a little checkbox which I can tick in order to state that this lead has been qualified. So I'm able to ask Claude, since it has a connection to Salesforce, I'm able to ask it to update that field. So it went ahead and did that for me as well. So it's great when you don't even have to, leave your Claude session, and you're able to automate all these actions. So this is an overview of the solution. I hope you found it useful and can apply these skills into your own sales workflow. If you want to get access to the process diagram that you saw in this video, as well as the skill files, I will put them in my community, which you can access by clicking the link below. With that said, thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.